So one more video and then we'll hop into Modern Warfare 3 today. This was the one I started watching last stream, but I couldn't get into it because I just wanted to go play some Search and Destroy. But this is from Who's Immortal, or my buddy Zach. And basically he's talking about some issues that Black Ops 6 might have. And I wanted to discuss what he's discussing in this discussion. So,
and gentlemen,
hey, hi, how you doing?
Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. We've obviously been talking a lot about Black Ops 6 over the past couple of weeks, and a lot of the topics here have been about the exciting new updates that the game is getting, new features, different changes that they're implementing. Honestly, there's a lot to be excited about with Black Ops 6. However, we always try to look at things, especially pre-launch, before you go out and you spend your money, in a more objective way.
He's getting negative this video.
So while we can say, yes, the game has a lot of potential for reason A and reason B and reason
Let's talk about why it doesn't have potential.
There are some things that I do think you should probably consider to a certain extent when it comes to your overall expectations for Black Ops 6. And
100%.
a lot of these things will probably have you tempering your expectations just because, well, yes, like I said, a lot of potential, a lot of positive takeaways from what we've seen so far. There are some things that unfortunately I just don't think Call of Duty is going to change, specifically within Black Ops 6, despite the fact that they're pretty hot topics every single year throughout the entire year for any given Call
so
of
we're
Duty
going
game.
into
Like,
skill-based
for instance,
matchmaking,
the first
connection.
one, which I've already seen so much talk about in all the BO6 related content
What else?
here. Skill-based matchmaking, or engagement
Bundles?
optimized matchmaking, whatever you want to refer to.
Yeah, there's skill-based matchmaking.
We all know Call of Duty has never been sweatier. It feels like in the vast majority of lobbies you're playing in, the skill-based is cranked to the max. If you're not using the absolute meta weapons, if you're not using the movement metas with slide canceling.
What Zach just said there is a really underrated aspect of skill-based matchmaking. He's right. The skill-based matchmaking forces you to have to use like the best of the best, and it's very difficult not to, which is just not fun.
Corner peeking, everything like that. If you're not doing the utmost to make sure you are playing as competitive as possible, you're probably getting slammed in a lot of cases, right? That's just unfortunately the state of Call of Duty. If you're a remotely decent player, there's not much room to actually play for fun and find success. You can play for fun if you just accept the fact that you're probably not going to win a lot of matches and you're not going to get a ton of kills, because if you start doing that, it gets sweatier and sweatier, then you're back to just competing for the World Series, right? And with SBMM, the thing is here is that while yes, for you and for me and for all of us that are chronically online, it's chronically online with no break to it, essentially. That's why X Defiant's so refreshing in my opinion. But unfortunately, SBMM,
which is weird, right? Because I get bored of X Defiant. Like, I like X Defiant. There's nothing wrong with X Defiant, but I don't know whether it's the grind or whatever it is. I just get bored of it.
Matchmaking and engagement-based matchmaking, whatnot. This is stuff that
I also get bored of Call of Duty, though.
Undeniably, objectively, is good for the business side of Call of Duty.
Yes.
And that's what they care about a whole lot more than us sweaty players' feelings, right? They are catering to the casuals. They're catering to
they don't care about your feelings.
Majority of the player base, which are more casual players, those who are not chronically online. They're not looking up the patch notes with every update. They're not following all the updates and changes.
Yeah, 10% of people. That's what I say. 10% of people watch YouTube videos. 10% of people are that sweaty.
Call of Duty.
So they're worried about the 90, not the 10.
Matchmaking does sort of protect them in a sense, like it's keeping them out of the ridiculously sweaty
you missed your shots
consistently to the point where they can play it more consistently and reliably without having to crank it up to competitive level 10, right? And with that, they're making Call of Duty a ton of money. So while yes, for the vocal majority, SBMM is incredibly obnoxious and exhausting in a lot of cases, for the actual player-based majority, it's something that is benefiting Call of Duty.
Which is crazy to say.
In any major way, skill-based matchmaking or engagement-based matchmaking is going to change within Black Ops 6, or probably ever in Call of Duty, if I'm being blunt with you guys, despite the fact that yes, I would love to see it eased up, I would love to see it toned down some. I just don't think realistically it's going to happen, given how much they care about money at the end of the day with this game. Another thing that, especially with Black Ops 6, is going to be interesting to see
going up again?
is aim assist, because obviously aim assist, again, a very hot topic. It makes controller players have some pretty distinct advantages in certain
I didn't expect them to go to this
close
one.
range, for instance. If you know how to use and abuse rotational aim assist, you can get a lot of very easy kills by comparison to what a keyboard and mouse player is going to have to do in that situation.
But where's he?
And again, to a certain extent, aim assist has to exist just flat out
100%.
at the base, controller players
where's he going with this?
have that to, stay consistent and stay competitive, at least to a certain point, right? Now, I do think aim assist is probably a little bit
Wait. Is it really about 10% that is sweaty and 90% of players that are really casual? Those percentages seem crazy to you? Yeah, if anything, I think 10% is a little bit generous. Think about it. Who is the biggest Call of Duty creator? Or let's go actually one that makes sense. J God, I think, would be a good example of this. Okay, Jev's Jev. His is more. I think J God would probably be a better example. His videos get what, like 100,000 views consistently. So 100,000 people are watching these videos on how to be the best possible player. And yeah, some of them get more. Some of them will have people come watch a second time. But 100,000 people. Well, there's about 100. Like, we just looked this up. But I will look it up again. How many people did it say are concurrent on Call of Duty right now? Does anybody remember? I just had it open. And again, this is just on Steam, but I'll why the hell can't I find it? There it is. Charts. Okay. So there's about 100,000 people peak concurrent a day. So 100,000 peak concurrent, right? It's 57 right now. So you can assume like that is at one time on one thing. All platforms, there's probably, I mean, if you take that number and say that it's the exact same on Battle.net, the exact same on Xbox, and the exact same on PlayStation, which is wrong. I guarantee there's more players on console. That's about 500,000 concurrent a day, which that's over 1 million. So let's say 1 million people play Call of Duty a day. 100,000 watch the most popular video. That's about 10% of the overall players. That's where I get that number from.
And maybe it's
Does that make sense?
Too easy in certain situations. Again, if you know what you're doing, and there is definitely an imbalance in controller versus keyboard.
Also, that's why I say 10% is being generous.
Gameplay, and especially as we've seen the movement metas evolve over time. Like aim assist has always been strong in Call of Duty, but slide canceling at first with Modern Warfare 2019, you started to see it more and more there, where it was easy to, go.
Another example, when my channel blew up, I was getting about 300,000 views. Between 100 and 300,000 views a video, and then I'd have my videos, my story videos that would blow up. That was during the launch of Warzone. There was between 500 and 700,000 players just on Steam at that point. And then again, multiply that by 5, and then take my numbers on a video, and it's about 10%.
Around keyboard and mouse players in the close range and sort of finesse, because you could use the movement but also be incredibly accurate at the same time, whereas only a few select keyboard and mouse players were capable of doing that on like a super high level, right? And then it evolves even more and more now as we see movement change.
Oh, okay, I see where he's talking about. Okay, so now he's talking about movement, and specifically how aim assist is going to work with movement, because technically the faster you move and the more aim assist works, the better aim assist actually is. So in other words, it is going to be very difficult to play keyboard and mouse in Black Ops 6.
Every single year. And Black Ops 6 is going to have the most advanced movement in some time, with Omni movement and the ability to have the full sprint in any direction, these slides in any direction, diving in any direction, all that stuff. I have to imagine aim assist is going to feel even more dominant with those movement changes in place. But again, going to the vast majority of players, they're on controller. So much of the player base is predominantly on controller, and obviously they're going to want to keep those players around.
If I was a keyboard and mouse player and I knew that this was coming, I would say, okay, it's time to play on controller. They're going to want to keep
those players feeling competitive and feeling like they're winning a lot of fights. And so aim assist naturally is going to be strong to make those players happy, to keep them buying bundles and to keep them on the game. That's not all when it comes to things that probably won't end up changing, and it might leave you a bit disappointed with BO6. As we do continue throughout this conversation, quick reminder, if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button.
Go subscribe to Zach. Day,
I got you covered with all the need-to-know info
He's
for
a legend,
Call of Duty.
friend.
And if you enjoyed this video,
gentleman.
Despite some of the,
maybe not a gentleman,
less
but a friend.
desirable topics, I guess, do me a favor, drop a like. It is always really appreciated. Next up, sort of piggybacking off of Amos's being so strong with controller versus keyboard and mouse, crossplay. Obviously, there are a lot of players on, PC that do play with controller. Myself, for instance, I like the added frames. I like the seamlessness when it comes to recording.
Where is he going with this one?
For you guys, it's
saying
just
crossplay bad
for me. However, obviously, a lot of players on PC also play keyboard and mouse. And with that, PC having some fundamental technological advantages over console, especially last gen, does create an imbalance when you're playing in crossplay lobbies. And since it was introduced into Call of Duty, it's never been something you could fully turn off outside of specific platforms at specific times.
That one doesn't bother me too much. That's like bottom of my concerns.
Despite the fact that back in MW 2019, they did initially say input-based matchmaking was going to be a thing.
They did.
Not sure whatever happened to that, but that seemed like just a straight-up lie at the time. Regardless, crossplay probably never going to change as well. Why is that? Because it keeps players on the game yet again. If you were
the evolution of Call of Duty is insane.
For crossplay and you had the option to turn it on or off, this means that a lot of console players will probably end up turning it off, and that sort of separates out the PC community, which in theory would have its advantages. Those console lobbies probably wouldn't have nearly as many cheaters, but it would then go back to Call of Duty before crossplay, where there was almost no PC community. It definitely cuts them off, dwindles down that player base, makes the lobby quality worse. It's just not good for them. Again, from a business standpoint, having people be able to party up with their friends on PS4 and PlayStation 5 and PC all in one party means more players on the game.
Yeah, I think all in all, it's a good thing
for how you can play the game from a business standpoint.
And if you think playing on PC is better, watch my stream and see how much I lag. I have a beast of a PC and it's still
as a business
all over the goddamn place.
That's sort of at the expense of some of the player base, unfortunately. Now, more obnoxious things based off of the business decisions of Call
we're talking
of Duty, bundles
microtransactions
and all that stuff. Probably going to continue to be spammed pretty heavily
100%.
within Black Ops 6. Really, we've seen a major increase in the past few years of just how many microtransactions are in the game. Of course, none of them are necessary to buy. You can still get all the new weapons for free. You can get certain skins and whatnot for free. And they've done a better job, I think, of actually upping the quality of some of the free content, especially this year with like Modern Warfare and Warzone, with all the camos and events that we've got going on. There are some really cool rewards from that.
True.
But that doesn't...
Solid point there. I was specifically talking about Black Cell and Battle Pass, which we're going to see in a couple days here. Yeah, 100% agree with what he says. The like weekly and challenges and items we get from that, way better. Black Cell Battle Pass
doesn't change the fact that every now and then there are pay-to-win bundles that enter the store, like certain optics that make things easier, or certain blueprints that make it easier to see. Sometimes they change recoil or damage, and then that ends up getting adjusted. But the spam of bundles, obviously tethered around the meta. You know, there's a really good rifle, suddenly there's a bunch of bundles for that rifle, a bunch of people buy those bundles, and then they nerf it after a little bit. That's a trend that has been very obvious recently, and again, probably not going to change. Why? Because it's up in the dollar signs for Activision and Microsoft at the end of the day. Another thing that I don't
think that one is necessarily on purpose. So basically what he's saying is a new weapon gets released. It's amazing. They release a bunch of bundles for it, and then the weapon gets nerfed. I think the reason for that is because when they release a new weapon, oftentimes it is broken. They release bundles for it because it is new, and then it gets nerfed like every weapon does after it's new. So I don't think that's an Activision problem. I think that is a buyer beware problem. Anything could get nerfed at any time. That's why I don't buy bundles.
Be a little bit concerned with going into the year is the traditional prestige returning. Now, I'm personally very excited to see that system in play again. Although something that's going to, I'm sure, impact a lot of players as they're going through and actually prestiging is the fact that as we go through and we're finding new metas, this rifle is meta now, then they go through and adjust it. They maybe buff this SMG, they buff this marksman. You might be in the middle of a prestige and very far away from unlocking one of those guns, and because
I'm guessing they are going to do permanent unlock tokens. So say, for example, I prestige once and I find out in Warzone the XM4 is the god gun. and I unlock that at level 50. Okay, here's a permanent unlock token. I'm going to use it on that. Then I will always have my XM4. Now, perks, they do perk packages in Warzone. So again, I don't think the level that you unlock perks are actually going to matter in Warzone.
The system now works like it did way back in COD and fully relocks everything.
I don't think this is going to be a problem like Zach is saying.
Interfere with your ability to run spontaneous metas in the game. So be wary of that going into your prestige grind this year. I know a lot of you have probably already started typing out comments at this point in the video about some other topics, and the reason that I didn't initially bring these two in specific up is because they're much more, you know, giant question marks than they are the certain things
I like question marks. What are they, Zach?
Previous topics like aim assist, SBMM, and these are these servers and the anti-cheat. I personally do not expect them to change the servers. I personally do not expect many changes with the anti-cheat.
No.
However, if there were to be things that Call of Duty were to upgrade or change for the sake of the community outcry that's been going on for years now, I don't think it would be SBMM. I don't think it would be aim assist.
That's a good point.
I do think, while still not a great chance, it could be the servers. They could finally give in and say, hey, you know, our servers are not up to standard with other major FPS titles in the industry. We're going to upgrade them, make the tick rate better. They should improve connection quality, hit reg, everything like that. It's possible that happens. Again, personally, I'm not expecting them to spend that money, but I think it's, you know, there's a chance that that could happen. And then with Ricochet too, we all know it's not a good anti-cheat. It has some things that work all right, but for the most part, there's too many cheaters on this game. We know Ricochet is going to get updates going into Black Ops 6, probably 100%. Some significant ones right at launch and then throughout the year as well. I don't have much faith, just based on the track record so far, based on the previous Ricochet updates, that it's just going to turn it into this fantastic anti-cheat that stops all cheaters.
We watched a Fortnite video about cheaters, and essentially what I learned is with a free-to-play game, you're always going to have cheaters. No matter how good your anti-cheat is, they're always going to be there because it's software development. They develop software in a way where, okay, we can block this cheat. Okay, let's come up with a new way of doing that cheat. Vice versa, cat and mouse game completely, and it's never going to be gone because it's a free-to-play game. There's a big enough market and people can make money off of it. So to just say, oh yeah, Ricochet is horrible, yeah, it is, but any anti-cheat is horrible. We looked at how bad Fortnite is, to the point where professional players are cheating in professional tournaments and can't be detected. Insane.
Unless they completely like rework it from the ground up and make it a preventative anti-cheat instead of a reactionary anti-cheat. But like I said, I assume a lot of you are already typing comments of, hey, what about the servers? What about Ricochet and all the cheaters and everything? I don't think they're going to change, but there's a better chance of those things potentially being updated.
I agree with that.
Some of the other topics towards the start of the video. But all that being said, those are some things that you may find a bit disappointing with Black Ops 6, and maybe a reason why you might want to temper expectations some, as cool as some of the gameplay updates do sound.
Yeah.
Of course, we're going to continue to get more and more details on BO6 as we get closer to COD next, and ultimately the launch this fall as well. And I'll be sure to keep you guys in the loop with all the need-to-know info right as it happens. So stay tuned for all that by hitting that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video...
All right, dope. Great video, Zach. I agree with pretty much everything that you said, except for the fact that cheaters are going to cheat, and that is never going to change, unfortunately. So, great video as per usual. Go check Zach out if you haven't already. Now, let's play some video games, shall we?